student of God. There's a way of being in the world that does not serve the steady movement into reality. To be a student of God is the greatest gift that can be accepted. Student of God. The way of the world is to hurry as quickly as possible to get to the next achievement. But there is no achievement past student of God. Forever to be the student of God. And the mixing of the ways of the world into the spiritual journey is what becomes confusion and despondency, because you can't achieve fast enough into your goal through the ideas of the illusion. When you have taken the illusion and made it your pattern, your roadmap for your life, most likely you will take the spiritual journey and you will see it as a checkoff list that says, yes, humble, yes, I can check that off, and I can check off that I listen and I memorize and I know things. There is no checkoff list to be the student of God. Student of God lives in the land of students and reluctantly steps out of the schoolroom because God has asked that you step out of the schoolroom and serve all the students of God. But there is a reluctance in this that is deep and powerful. The reluctance is essential. If you are not reluctant, if you see yourself as moving from being a student of God to maybe having a higher plane identity, every beloved master is calling you back to the humility of learning to be a student of God. If you are called in awakening to serve more fully, that reluctance doesn't leave. The reluctance stays because the reluctance is necessary to be able to be clear about where God is calling you. But let's say 99.9% remain students of God forever. maybe even a higher percentage. And the teacher doesn't leave from being a student of God. That would be like saying, I have in these 20 something years, even in an awakened state, I figured it out. No, it's not figured out. It's daily, day by day, embracing every moment of teaching that comes as a service to all of humanity. Student of God. If you allow the words student of God to touch your heart, you will find that there is no other gift that is greater than to be the student of God. To learn the tiniest amount of truth is beyond comprehension. The knowledge of God is beyond anything in this world. Anything. And everyone is called to that place of learning how to be a student of God. You see, the student of God learns that there's nothing here in this world that touches in any way a truth that comes from God. There's nothing in this world. There's nothing that it offers that can touch your heart's happiness, your heart's joy, when you recognize a truth for yourself, for everyone. And if you don't feel that awesome awareness of God's love touching you with truth, then I call you deeper and deeper and deeper to be able to be stunned by the truth of God. To be stunned, because it is stunning. It is stunning, and there is nothing in this world that compares or can be compared to the stunning love and power of God. It is essential to recognize the teachers that have been sent to you and not to allow the ego to diminish the gift that does come through every teacher. Every teacher, for the most part, there are always exceptions. But when a master awakens and becomes that master, they are on a boat and no longer playing the game of the world's temptations. When a master wakes up, it isn't that there is a voice that says, okay, now give up everything that you've ever had. Give up all your ideas, because you've already done that. When you wake up, you've already given up all your ideas of what you think you know about the world. And being on the boat is because you belong to God. You no longer belong to the world of form. And yet there is no sacrifice. There is no sacrifice in remembering. But at the same time that there is no sacrifice in remembering, there is no reward. There is no payoff other than love itself, which is everything. But there's no idea of reward like what comes from the world when you think that you've accomplished something and you're going to the next level to have another accomplishment. Why is this so important? To recognize that you are a student of God and how precious that is. The Winter Olympics are going on right now. And you look at the Winter Olympics or any kind of race or contest, and there is a pedestal that gets used to place those beloveds on, the pedestals of how well they've done. And my sense is that when we're in the world believing in limitation and separation, we fantasize about being on those pedestals, that humanity projects that idea into life as if there is going to be a pedestal that you're going to be placed on when you know enough. There is no pedestal. There can't be a pedestal. It would eliminate the heart. The pedestal says, I am up and you are down. There is within the spiritual journey what is sometimes referred to as the spiritual ego. And the spiritual ego is the main engine that wants to be up on that pedestal. It wants spiritually somehow that through the words of truth that you are the light of God, through the words of truth that you are the divine creation of God, that you are innocent, that you are perfect, that you are whole, and that you within you carry the wisdom of the universe. And yet still, with all that, there is no pedestal. Chop wood, carry water. Dig ditches scrub floors. Stay on your knees, bowing to the divine until you forgot why you were there. Have no other adoration except for the adoration of love itself. Have nothing to say to anyone unless it's truly brought to you to be offered. The idea of the pedestal goes and brings with it all the words of knowing. How do we lose that addiction? We look at the master that was sent to us. Sometimes it's more than one. But that master doesn't mind being on their knees. That master doesn't mind scrubbing floors. It's not even a matter of minding, it's a privilege. It holds things in balance. The master is not the one sitting in the golden chair with lovely clothes and bright sayings. The master is the one that is scrubbing the floor, because it's so important to stay in alignment with love. Every master has walked through fire purposefully, gladly, not as a victim, as a gift to walk through fire and realize that even fire cannot touch the perfection of God. This week I've been singing hymns from Jose's receiving to celebrate his incarnation. To honor his incarnation and to affirm that without having been with a master in form, this awakening probably wouldn't have happened. Every time I recognized the humility in Jose, it humbled my heart, because it was such a gift, the gift of humility that was so essential. And that humility is every single word of I don't know. I don't know. Why is the I don't know so essential? It's the only thing that keeps humility away from the door. If you don't embrace humility, you cannot embrace love. It's not because somebody is watching you and keeping score. It's because the arrogance of the ego is so determined to use the spiritual ego to better the identity. It's easy. All you have to do is repeat sacred words. All you have to do is look spiritual. But what really gets missed is that you really do drop to your knees not with humiliation, but with such reverence for the ones who came before you, for the ones who opened the doors and led you where you truly wanted to go. Every day is a blessed day of being the student of God. And every day is filled with learning. But the learning cannot begin with I know. It can't begin without the humbling. The difficulty with humbling is that almost every beloved has prayed and had a statement of agreement with the spiritual ego that to be humble is to be humiliated. To be humble is to be embarrassed. It's to be stripped of worth. Because the spiritual ego, the ego, believes that to be exalted is what you're looking for. Even if you spend every minute focused on love, on truth, even if you spend every minute there, the spiritual ego is still saying, don't embarrass yourself. You're so knowledgeable. You're so together. You're so you studied so long. 20, 50 years, whatever, lifetimes. You deserve the respect for what you have studied and learned. As soon as there is the word deserve, that should be your sign that the spiritual ego is speaking. There are masters. that have no followers, none. And yet they serve completely. But they never meet anyone who is meant to follow them. And yet the power of their awareness is priceless. And we honor all of them, whether they have students or not, because they are the center of God's truth that has come onto the earth plane. Student of God is a precious, precious place, and we never leave. We continue to learn. How could we not? How could we ever be finished with the universe of love? So as I honor the divine who came as Jose, I honor his teachings, I honor his humility, I honor his never-ending offerings, because they're always perfect. Come along, brother, let's go on this path of light and love. Come along, sister, let's go on this path of light and love with our Father and our Mother, and letting all pain go. Let us pray and work for this goal. It's the task of our lives. I see the Spirit. I see my soul. I see the light in me. As my heart opens like a flower, I become the living God. I create and I am created within the oneness of all. I create and I am created within the oneness of all. Let's go on this path of light and love. Let's everyone following the Divine Mother and Father and letting all pain go. Pray and work for this goal. It's the task of the life, of every life. I see the Spirit, I see my soul, I see the light in me. That is your signal that the light within you can be seen. Hold your spirit, hold your soul, hold the light in you in reverence, and learn more and more about that light, the truth of that light, and follow, because there's nothing else to do until you go kicking and screaming into God's heart. This hymn, which I've sung so often, when I sing this hymn or think of this hymn, it's really that this has an essence of Jose's heart in it. He received this hymn for his adopted son, Marcelo, who suffered a lot in his life through karma, through many things. So as I sing this hymn, it's really for Marcelo again, because he learned the deeper truth of love. Here I am, going, declaring the love within my heart. Here I want to affirm the love of our Divine Mother, that I am here forever to love. Here in this school of love, I have come to give thanks to all divine beings. Within the light that is the truth of our Divine Mother, I am here forever to praise and never to aggrandize myself. Forever to praise and never to aggrandize. There is no loss there. There is only the truth of love. I have been small with the truth of love, but within this light, I can be a great love. To love together with all beloveds, all of us together praising God. Here within this power, we must give thanks to our Divine Mother and Father. The healing that we are receiving within the heart comes through loving and the gratitude of receiving. It's the realization that the love flows constantly if we will allow it to take us. Eu aqui vou seguindo, declarando o amor dentro do meu coração. Eu aqui quero afirmar o amor de nossa mãe, para sempre eu amar. Aqui na escola do amor, eu venho agradecer a todos os seres divinos dentro da luz de nossa mãe. Para sempre vou louvar e nunca me agradecer. Sou pequeno do tamanho do amor, para dentro desta luz o grande amor pode ser. Amar junto com os meus irmãos, todos nós seguindo juntos, e o Deus poder louvar. Aqui dentro do poder, devemos agradecer a nosso Pai, a nossa Mãe. As curas que vamos recebendo dentro do coração, amando e agradecendo. Loving and giving thanks. We have not come to take prisoners. We have not come here to take prisoners, but to surrender even more deeply to freedom and joy. We have not come into this exquisite world to hold ourselves hostage from love. Run, my dear, from anything that might not strengthen your precious budding wings. We have a duty to befriend those aspects of obedience that stand outside our house and shout to our reason, oh, please, come out and play. For we have not come here to take prisoners or to confine our wondrous spirits, but to experience ever and ever more deeply our divine courage, freedom, and light. Freedom and joy, freedom and light is what we are here for. The light does not come from getting on the pedestal. The light doesn't come from believing that you are an advanced person. The light does not come from the mind that thinks it knows. We have a duty to befriend those aspects of obedience that stand outside our house and shout to our reason, please come out and play. Playing is the joy and the laughter of recognizing that you don't know anything, that you really don't know the way home, and that you're just learning. And the most amazing aspect of that is that as you realize you're just learning, all of this help shows up. It doesn't leave you on your own. It doesn't give you a tutorial and say, here, figure this out. It surrounds you with guidance. It surrounds you with beloved light that will lead you and teach you. You have entered into another realm of light, of love, and all your teachers are there all the time. There is not one moment where if you call for help, that the divine doesn't show up. There is not one moment that when you call my name, that I don't show up, because that's all that there is. And that comes to you because you are a student of God, because you want to remember the truth of who you are, one with God. So we're not here to take prisoners. We're here to surrender ever more deeply to freedom and joy. Your function is happiness. Your function is to offer peace. Your function is to express humility and show your gratitude for having been ready in this lifetime to go into the depths of truth. You were the one that was ready, or else you wouldn't have felt that calling. But once you're ready for that, there's a significant expectation on the other side. in that readiness, God gives you teachings that will push you past what you may be comfortable with. But because of being ready, you go, you follow, and you learn. And you begin to really see the dynamic mysteries of the teachings that are given to you, because they're not of this world, and yet they can heal this world if they are used correctly, humbly. So in this lesson, we have not come into this world to hold ourselves hostage from love. We have come here in this time, in this moment, to learn what you have not known of love. I've said many times that everything that is given is meant to be taken as deeply as possible. And everything that is given to you is precious and perfect for you, if you are willing to take it in. But what happens first is that what you think you are is a belief to be undone. And when you believe that you're already undone and you're not, that can be a place of deep pain, because you're kind of losing yourself in your own mind. And God is calling to remember in a very deep way why you're here. I wrote down this teaching that I took for myself many years ago. The Divine Mother revealed so many spiritual practices. And as her child, I took them in and learned about those practices, learned how to walk in the world more in balance with the energy of the Divine Mother. I learned to live in devotion, to live devoted, to live in the devotion to the divine is necessary, because it's where you're going to be living forever, is in the devotion to the divine. This is a place of exquisite joy, to be learning how to open to that devotion. Every day, place your devotion completely into the hands of God. This is not because you're lessening yourself, but because you are diving into the truth of love's wholeness. You're diving. What if somebody shows up at your house while you're diving? You're diving into love's devotion. Do you answer the door? Or do you try to come back and be together? Or do you stay in that devotion? That really becomes the decision of the Divine Mother. Whether you walk befuddled in that devotion, or does the Divine Mother call you to come back to be able to answer the door? It's all up to the divine. When you're making decisions for yourself, or you're making them for what you think may be somebody else, this is the place that can become very painful. If you've had a fantasy of being advanced in some way, and you use the spiritual ego to formulate that and to prove that you're right, it's going to be very painful, because you're paying homage to your own identity, and there can't be any truth in it. Your own identity. You're not paying homage to the light that you are. If you're holding the light that you are as truth, it's a very quiet place. It's a very, very touching, tender place. It's not an announcement place. I'm the light of God. No. It's a place of learning as well. None of what I'm saying is because there is a right and a wrong. There is no right or wrong, but there is a road that can lead off in a different direction, and you can get lost there. And love doesn't want you to get lost, doesn't want anybody to get lost, but wants your devotion. The devotion to love, the devotion to every other beloved is not really a devotion to every other beloved, because every other beloved is you. So all devotion is what will serve every beloved as deeply as possible. I wrote down this teaching because it was so stark. Do not allow the slightest trace of malice to enter your mind toward any teacher or master of God. Kali, Krishna, Buddha, Allah, the Christ. No one would think of putting malice on the divine consciously. But what the Buddha, Kali, Krishna, Jesus the Christ, and Allah all are saying to all of humanity is walk very, very carefully, to not mistake your path. and to not disparage any teaching by believing that you know and can eliminate the teachings. Go very, very slowly to not mistake your path, because it's so easy to do so. It truly is so easy to do so. Every time you think of Kali, Buddha, the Christ, and you spend time contemplating these beloveds who walked through fire, every time it's to really see that they are indivisible consciousness and bliss as one, interchangeable. Imagine that you have the power and the opportunity that every time you meet a beloved, that you point your finger toward the truth. And you point it kind of away from yourself, because you're not going like this, you're sending them to God. Sometimes when I was talking to Jose, and he would do that, and he would look at me and he'd say, "Don't look at me, look at God. Find God. Don't look at me. Don't look at me as the end result. With respect, with love, with devotion, look at all masters as the truth, but they are all pointing to God." And they are no longer in question of the truth. Every beloved is being asked to hold sacredly the road that you've been given, because it's precious. And that road that you've been given calls you to bring that blessing to everyone that you are aware of with humility. Let the doors open for the divine beloveds that are called to be with any teacher, to find that teacher. Let the doors open and be available for pointing the finger toward the one that will serve. Take no prisoners. We have not come here to take prisoners. Every master that you've ever come in contact with, through written words, through physical form, through the blessings of guidance, see them all in divine equality. But it's important to see all those teachers as your road home. Whether they're here for 10 minutes or whether they're here for a lifetime, honor them, see them for their holiness and their divine equality. And hold them in devotion. And you are here not to take prisoners. You are here to remember the freedom and joy that you are, that you are as the light of God. But until you can embrace that in its totality, only the student is receiving. The student is kneeling at the feet of the divine and receiving and learning. I used to hear the voice of the ego when I was walking in the world. I used to hear the voice of the ego saying, how much longer is this going to take? How much longer do I have to study and work and surrender? And I would hear the voice of love, and the voice of love would say, are you kidding? Are you kidding? You have walked 1,000 lifetimes and you are so close. You are so close because you have finally realized that there's another way. You have finally come to the place where you see that you have a choice. And you do not allow the impatience of your insane ego to complain about where you are. The patience that you have, that you are asked to live in, is all that is required, but it is required. Patience is required. To trust that the divine is leading you and that you're not in charge, and you don't even know how long it's going to take, and you don't know how long you don't know where the end is. It's okay. God is leading. You are the student of God. It's enough to be the student of God. It's everything to be the student of God. The barriers of the ego warp everyone's vision. It warps the lens that you look through. Be very careful about that lens, because it just takes you in a direction that has no purpose other than to satisfy the longing and desire of the ego to be the top dog. There is no top dog. And all of that longing and all of that hidden need has to be healed. It is the pain and suffering that is being carried in the belief that you have to become special. You have to become special and separate yourself from everybody because you have worked at becoming special. When you get to that special place, you find out that it's nothing special because you got nowhere. The specialness of the ego is meant to divert you from God, to divert you from truth. Come back into the devotion of love. It's so easy to stay in the devotion of love. Be careful on your path is only saying, stay in the heart of love and be the student of God and learn. Every moment, learn. There's nothing else, only learning, only love.